Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. You. Good morning. Good morning to you. And many more. And many more. And many more. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues, Get Free Friday, Finance Friday. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. I hope that you have been having a great and wonderful day. My day has been off to a slow start, but I am thankful to be alive. I am thankful to be of sound mind. I am thankful to have the, as my elders would say, the use and the activity of my limbs. I am thankful. So I hope that you are having as great as a Friday as I am having. Let's talk about and let's go right into our readings for today. We're looking at for our health and wealth in our health segment. We're looking at the book Live Nourished. Make peace, make peace with food, banish body shame, and reclaim joy. The other book that we're going to be looking at is Moving Beyond Broke, The Power of Perseverance in Personal Finance. Also, this past week, I was hipped to a new book that just literally just came out. They had to go all the way to the stock room to pull it out of the box. That's how fresh it is out of the press. And I'm looking at it. It is entitled How to Invest $50 to $5,000. And it goes into lots of detail about the types of investments and markets and really helping people who have never invested before understand how to invest, what they're investing in, what are the returns, what are the pros, what are the cons. And so we will be adding that book on Fridays as we continue to move through these two and we find ourselves, maybe midpoint of the finance book, I will start adding in that third book to our readings on Friday. So I want people to know as you come in, and sometimes some of you come in and out throughout the week. If you're not familiar with our format yet, we read Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But we don't read the same thing every single day. We read by subject matter. So if you're with us on Monday, you're not seeing us read the same thing on Friday. If you're with us on Tuesday, we're reading something different. Every single day of the weekday, we're reading something different. And then if you're with us on the weekend, on Sunday, on our Sunday dialogue, we are diving into the scriptures, namely the Bible. So if you're a person who's interested in learning more about scripture, You can meet us on Sundays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Monday through Friday, we're covering again various books and various topics. So there's always something new to read with us and hopefully new to learn on your end. And then we take part of our segment to have the talk back. And usually Pastor Ben joins me for that talk back segment. All right. Anybody is welcome to join me for talkbacks. I just have to figure out how to get you the link. So if you're interested in joining me for a talkback, you can always email me at thedaringdialogues@gmail.com, and you can say, hey, I'm interested in participating in your talkbacks. When you do that, that will enable me to have a email that I can send you the link to, and you'll be on my file for the talkbacks, and I can send you the link, and that way when we're ready to chop it up, you'll be able to have that link if you want to come on. All right. Right now from my phone, I have not figured out how to get everybody the link to join because I am doing this from my phone. All right. So let's take a look at the first book here, Live Nourished, Make Peace with Food, Banish Body Shame, and Reclaim Joy. We are, let's see, we've looked at the hamster wheel of diet culture, and we talked about the racist roots of BMI, and we are in the chapter entitled We Cannot Be Carbon Copies of Each Other, chapter 3. And we've also talked about the lack of inclusivity when it comes to understanding people's bodies, understanding what's required and what's needed for the body. And now we are in the section entitled Fat Liberation. And this is going to conclude chapter 3, Fat Liberation. Now, I don't know about you, but lately I have been coming across a lot of people who I wouldn't necessarily say they are fat phobic. I think they just have some negative notations or negative stereotypes around people who are not the quote unquote norm. And I actually did go and look at what are some of the norms for America in terms of body size. And believe it or not, most Americans are not real thin. They're just not, especially the women. The average size for a woman in America right now is anywhere between 14 to 16, which means you're not real thin. And it's interesting because if you go to, like, say, any kind of like outdoor mall or shopping place, right? And you're looking and you're walking through and you're looking at some of the displays. I was the other day just out window shopping, and I was looking at the displays and I was like, yeah, people are going to look at this stuff and keep walking by because they don't see themselves in your product. They don't see their size in the window. So why would I be inclined to come into your space to shop or to look for clothes if I'm looking at something that doesn't resemble me at all? And I thought to myself, don't they want to sell the clothing? You would think they would, you know? And some of these spaces you go in and you ask, what size do you go up to? And usually they have my size. But then my question is, well, then why is that not represented in your window? Why don't you have a variety of sizes represented in your window? Because what you have represented is saying only thin people here. Thin people welcome. And I'm not thin. I used to be, but I'm not thin anymore. So I found that to be very interesting. And just pay attention to that. If you go out this weekend and you're going to be out and about, you might pass by some shops, you know, see what they have in their window display and ask yourself, does it reflect the size of the women in my life? If you're a man, ask yourself, does it reflect the size of the women in my life? Why are all these women one size? And why are they all thin? Why is the representation all thin? So let's get into it. Body positivity is the general idea that all bodies are good bodies. And good morning to those of you coming in. All bodies are good bodies. Now, I don't know if that is a new thought, but as I said, my elders would always say, are you living? Are you breathing? Do you have relatively good health? Are you in your right mind? Do you have the use and activity of your limbs? Well, if you do and you're in the land of the living, you have something to be excited about. You should be thankful. So to me, the notion of body positivity has, I'm going to say, in my growing up, in my experiences, that's been a part of African American culture. Like to have a body, to have a working body, to have, the activity of your arms and your legs and mobility and sight and all of that. We have just said, if these things are working, if your body is operable, if you can get up and nobody had to help you get out of bed, you ought to be thankful. You ought to be grateful. And so, yeah, when I think of body positivity, I think about the fact that in some ways, Black culture has been expressing body positivity. And anybody in the comments who's African American, you can tell me whether or not you agree with that or whether you think that is something that you've heard before, right? And she says, and today's body positivity movement would be nothing without fat liberation. Fat activism started in the 1960s at the same time the women's liberation movement and Black civil rights were gaining momentum. The movement originated from fat, Black, and queer activism that was organized in response to certain bodies being so rarely visible or held as valuable in discourses and visual media. Fat activists saw the liberation linked to other struggles of oppression, such as racism and LGBTQ rights. In 1969, the National Association to Aid Fat Americans, now called the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance, or NAAFA, NAAFA, was created in response to the discrimination people in larger bodies face. In 1972, activist Johnny Tillman said, I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, I'm a poor woman, I'm a fat woman, I'm a middle-aged woman. In this country, if you're any one of these things, you count less as a human being. That statement perfectly encapsulated the heart of the movement. Black women were often labeled fat, ugly, and sluggish in the media. This fueled the movement to focus on fat phobia as the product of misogyny and racism. Even with the strong origins of this movement, it seems that somewhere along the way it took a sharp detour and derailed. When you look at images on social media, the majority of positive bodies you see are young, white, lean, able-bodied, and cis women. The movement quite often lacks discussion around intersectionality. It's hard to discuss how all bodies are good bodies when society is still telling us that the only good bodies are the more socially acceptable thin ones. There is more and more pushback by fat activists against using the term body positivity because in order to actually promote this statement that all bodies are good bodies, the most marginalized of those bodies should be front and center. We have to center those voices. I have stopped using the term body positivity on my posts as well because it doesn't describe the real disruption I want for the system. I want actual body diversity to be celebrated and normalized. The original purpose of the body positivity movement was to highlight discrimination and fat phobia that larger body people faced. But the general tenor of it has now lost its purpose. We are all allowed to have off days with our bodies, but there's a difference between your body being policed and discriminated against and having an off day. Body positivity preaches love your body no matter what, which is helpful for some. However, fat activism takes us deeper to the body positivity's original roots and says, "My body is not a disease, and I deserve equitable treatment and to not be discriminated against." There is a difference. If you want to learn about racism, especially anti Blackness, you should learn it from someone Black. If you want to learn about discrimination that the LGBTQ community faces, you should learn it from someone who is a part of the community. If you want to learn about weight stigma and bias and the harm they perpetuate, you should and need to learn from a fat activist. I say this intentionally because I don't want to be someone's sole or main source regarding anti fatness or weight stigma. We need to be more intentional about learning from lived experiences of the people around us. That's why there should never be an event about weight stigma with no fat people involved. The same way in which a panel on anti Blackness having no Black people would and should cause an uproar, or a panel on weight stigma with no fat people should have the same effect. Social media can be a place for learning, but it can also make us feel as though we are in a bubble. If we are not actively looking for certain content or content creators, we are shown only one type of physicality and or ideas. This can be due in part to the algorithm that pushes out certain content while suppressing others. But we also tend to feel more comfortable with seeing people who look like us or bodies we are socialized to uphold. I always recommend diversifying your feed for this exact reason. In other words, being intentional about the things that you bring into your news feed or into your content feed versus Facebook just showing you things. Now, I will say for myself, um, for example, I have, it's not a condition, but some people have a top lip that is darker than their bottom lip, or vice versa. And it has to do with the amount of melanin that's coming into your skin. Well, one of the things that Facebook often shows me is they show me ads about how to fix that, how to have some kind of medical procedure that makes my both of my lips the same color. Well, I'm not interested in fixing that. So, how did Facebook pick up on sending me those kinds of ads? Well, obviously, they're doing things in the background with our face and with recognition and AI and all of those things. Because not one time did I ever go looking for that ad or those videos, but they started to show up in my news feed. So we do have to be very intentional about the things that we are searching out, so that we are in control of our algorithm and of our feed, more so than, again, just allowing these social media platforms to feed us what they want to feed us. The body positivity movement we see today looks drastically different from its origins because we still privilege thin bodies. Body positivity tells people that they are allowed to have doubts and love their imperfections as long as they are still a version of thin and conventionally attractive. How would we know that there are many versions of bodies and that body diversity is actually normal if we are only living and existing in our bubble and not intentionally seeking out people who are diverse? We tend to seek out and follow people who look like us on social media. And even if those people don't look like us per se, they represent an image that we would want to attain or find desirable. I think back to June 2020 when hashtag Blackout Tuesday was running rampant in response to the racial tension due to the murder of George Floyd. Many social media accounts proudly put up a black square as a way to show solidarity, but it didn't stop there. So many non Black social media users realized that they didn't follow any Black accounts and flocked to try to find and follow as many as they could. This had positive and negative effects. On a positive note, so many accounts, including mine, were being recognized and acknowledged as learning tools by people who otherwise would not seek out our work. On a negative note, many of these acts of solidarity were simply performative. But we shouldn't have to wait for a movement to realize that our feed and the people we seek education from only look one way. Diversity in every aspect should be something that we look for and want to change with intention. Now, this does not happen overnight. We must sit with discomfort and acknowledge that the information that we've had for many years might not be entirely correct. We can accept that diet culture is not doing anything helpful for society, but we have trouble accepting body diversity and that some bodies are fat and not unhealthy. Many social media posts will say things like, I'm all for body positivity, but, or people shouldn't be discriminated against, but there shouldn't be any buts after that statement. I am not denying someone's lived experience in any capacity. Many folks say they feel better with weight loss. I believe them. I believe them because I imagine it feels better when you are being treated more positively by conforming instead of constantly fighting with a society that dislikes your body. I imagine it feels better to find clothes more easily and to fit into seating areas. I'm not denying that. I'm also not denying that your joints feel better and you have more energy with weight loss because maybe you are receiving the proper physical therapy and feel more welcome in public exercise spaces. I imagine that there was a change of behavior and that maybe it might be doing the exercises that are actually strengthening your muscles and increasing your stamina. It might not just be weight loss or having a smaller body. I say might because I am not denying anyone's experience or telling someone how to feel. Body autonomy is incredibly important, but so is body acceptance. So ask yourself today, are you accepting of your body? If you want some further reading from people who are actually in the work and doing the work, she has some authors and some books here that she recommends. Belly of the Beast, The Politics of Anti-Fatness as Anti-Blackness by Deshaun, D-A apostrophe S-H-A-U-N, Harrison with two R's. The next book, The Body is Not an Apology, The Power of Radical Self-Love by Sonya, S-O-N-Y-A, Taylor, Taylor. Hunger, A Memoir of My Body by Roxane, Roxane, Gay. What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat by Aubrey, Aubrey, Gordon. And the last recommendation, Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia by Dr. Sabrina, Sabrina, strings with an S. All right. When we come back to this book, we will be in season 17, and we're going to talk. Ooh, this is a good chapter. Chapter 4, Elitism of Health and Wellness. If you know anything about me, and maybe you're going to learn it today, there is two things that are my pet peeves. I call them pet peeves, but it just, I don't know, it sends me somewhere. One is condescension. I can probably deal with almost anything a person does, but when they start being condescending, it's an automatic no fly zone. It's an automatic block. So condescension is a big one for me. The second one is elitism. I cannot stand it. And sometimes I find myself being in elitism spaces and it makes my skin itch. But yeah, elitism. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she has to say about elitism in health and wellness spaces because I see it a lot. Um, I'm in a couple of fitness groups and elitism is running rampant. Some of the groups I have put on snooze because I'm like, I need your moderators and your founders of the group to actually check what is being posted in this group, because some of it is just elitism, has nothing to do with health, has nothing to do with personal growth, has nothing to do with improving your body or any of that. It's just elitism and talking down to people who are quote unquote not where they need to be. So, yeah, that's going to be a great chapter. All right, let's move on to the next book here, Moving Beyond Broke. And we are looking at her chapter entitled Money Looks Better in the Bank, also known as savings. And last time we looked at low effort ways to save up $1,000. And then she's talked also about saving. Um, I say forget you money. She says F you. I say forget you money for financial security. This next section is entitled Breaking Down My Emergency Savings Strategy. And so we'll read this section and then we will pause for today. Breaking down my emergency savings strategy, the author writes. You can call it a rainy day fund like my mom, or an FU money like me, or just plain old emergency savings. What's important to remember is that not all emergencies are created equal. Smartly managing an emergency fund is more about how you use the money than just saving it up. It's important to clearly define for yourself what counts as an emergency and then categorize your emergencies to avoid slowly depleting your funds by using your savings meant for big emergencies or minor inconveniences. To make sure I have enough money to cover major financial hardships, I like to separate my emergency savings into specific categories and tiers based on the anticipated duration of the need and how long it will take to recover. So she's got this mapped out into 4 tiers, and we're going to look at them today. Tier number 1 is small cash emergencies, i.e., immediate things. These are minor inconveniences that cost you less than $100, such as an unexpected parking fee when visiting a new city, or a cash only entry fee for things like fairs or sporting events. Tier number 2, short term emergencies, 1 to 3 months. These are more costly but manageable one time or short term disruptions, such as a minor home repair, think a broken window or a leaking sink, or replacing devices or small appliances, a lost cell phone, or an ancient dishwasher. Tier number 3, medium term emergencies, 3 to 5 months. These are significant financial hits that may take a few months to recover from, like major car repairs, such as transmission or engine repair, or unplanned travel expenses for a family emergency. And then there is Tier 4, long term emergencies, 6 months plus. This category includes only severe, potentially life altering financial hardships, such as recovering from a serious illness, a sudden job loss, or natural disasters such as floods or fires impacting your home and living situation. A couple of weeks back, I had to take off because we had one of those somewhere between medium term to long term emergencies, but it was something that needed to be fixed immediately, and it was going to require several $1,000s. And a couple of years back, we had several home repairs all happen at the same time that cost us close to $15,000. Um, Most people, if you're not saving, that becomes a huge hit in your finances. But if you have been saving, you can kind of weather that a little bit easier than if you just said, oh my God, I got to come up with $15,000 and I need this done immediately in my home. It's something that has to do with your health, right? Maybe your AC and heating unit has completely broken down. Those things can run anywhere between 7,000 to sometimes 20,000, depending on the kind of system you get. That's not something that you can just say, "Oh, I'm just not gonna do." No, especially if you live in the north, right? And you're dealing with snow and cold and all of that, and it's getting to be wintertime, you need to get that fixed. So I like this tier system that she has set up, thinking about the immediate things I need to save for, the short term things I need to save for, that's minor inconveniences, significant financial hits, and then long term emergencies. All right. She says, I handle these tiers for my family by creating 4 separate savings accounts. Now, you don't have to do that, but this keeps me from using money meant for serious emergencies on minor problems. This is what works for me. I'll do so. You consider setting certain spending rules for yourself if you're pulling money from one big fund. For example, you can create percentages for each tier, allocating a certain amount for each category. You might budget 10% to go into tier one, 20% for tier two, 30% for tier three, and 40% for tier four emergencies. This doesn't mean you have to max out every single one of your tiers or accounts, but it's helpful to divide your emergency savings according to your priorities. By doing so, you can ensure that each type of emergency has an appropriate safety net, preventing any single event from wiping out your entire emergency fund. By setting clear rules ahead of time, your emergency fund can support you when you truly need it. Now, as we move into our talk back segment, if you are following me on Facebook on Black Table Talk page, I have left up from yesterday several different posts that are talking about mutual aid. And why has that term become so popular right now? Mutual aid is where you don't wait for the government to solve the problem. Um, and let me be clear on this. Black people have been participating in mutual aid in our community since time immemorial. Why? Because a lot of times the government itself has denied Black people the help that the government could have provided. So when people say mutual aid or getting in community, Black people have already been doing that because we've had to do it. When people say no one is coming to save you, trust me, if any community understands that, it's Black people. Because whenever the government says, "Hey, come get this thing," this is made available to you. By the time we get in the line and fill out the application and the paperwork, they find some kind of way to hit deny for us. So mutual aid and community aid has been a part of our ethos, not just because we like to help each other, but also because a lot of times the things that were offered to other people, we were summarily denied. All right. So we know that we are coming up to a time where SNAP benefits, right? That's been a lot in the news. SNAP benefits are not going to be in place for people. And on my page, I have several posts that have to do with resource guides, that have to do with um, what you can do if you are looking for resources to get benefits from. And I want to point those posts out so that if you go looking for them today, you will see them on the page. One of them is from the Association of Black Psychologists. They have a new resource guide that they just released for people in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And if you go to their page, if you click that link, you'll be able to download all 3 types of resources that they have. They have a primary guide for community resources, they have a government resources guide, and then they have a guide highlighting organizations that are helping people that are less than 3 years old. Okay, so that's one option. The let's see, I'm trying to scroll here really quickly. Do, 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 do. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. There's a post here by the Progressive Parent, and it says this is a thread for stretching food and low budget recipes, as it is going to be difficult for many Americans out here, myself included. There is another post called From Homesteading, Hoodoo, and Holistic Wealth, that is laying out community resources for empowerment and a guide to free and low cost support available in most US cities and states. And she actually goes through and tells you where to find free and low cost food, what sites to go to, help with your bills and your basic needs, the sites, odd jobs and side hustles, people who are looking for dental care needs and sites, and then medical care resources and sites, and therapy, mental health, and emotional support are all on that post. So I just wanted to point those out because people are out here and they are sharing. They are sharing. Each one is teaching one. So make sure you check those out on my page today and see if there are any resources there that can help you or help someone you know that is struggling with food insecurity. I have been in that place before in my life where I had to go to the government for assistance. And it was not long, but I will tell you, as an able bodied person, I had to be working. I don't understand where people are saying, oh, these people are just sitting around, they're not doing anything. No, legally, you have to work in order to even qualify. I don't have any children, so they were not really offering me much help. I'm also married, so they were really not offering me much help. They gave us $25 for the month. Yeah, $25. That's what we got. You have $25 to use to eat for 30 days. Good luck. All right. So this whole notion and idea of people just getting off on the system, I'm like, you may have never had to apply. When I see people saying that, I'm saying clearly you've never had to apply or you've never needed help. But yeah. So hopefully those of you who are in a position to help, I know I'm gonna be um doing some things through my local grocers, my local food bank. If you are in a position to help people, please be in a position and do and operate in community and help your neighbor. All right. Pastor Ben, I believe I have sent the link to you. So hopefully you will see that link in your inbox. Hopefully it didn't go to spam if you want to join me for the talk back today. I'll give you a few minutes to find that link to join, hopefully. YouTube has been acting very, very uh, inconsistent when it comes to links. So we'll see. Will it give you the link today? And again, we are ending season 16. Season 16, our last day of the season will be on Monday. And then we will be taking the rest of the week off. And we will see you on, let's see, we will see you on, yay, there he is. All right. We will see you on Monday, November 3rd. All right. So we'll be back. Our last day will be Monday for this season. We'll be taking a break. And then the next time you see us will be the first Monday in November. And we will be starting season 17. Good morning. I can hear you a little. I can hear. There you go. I can see you, and I was just hearing you. I
Can you hear
can.
me? Okay.
All right. Where would you like to start? Uh-oh, your sound is
Our
going out a little bit.
community never had.
Now I can.
Now, our community body types until we started becoming more and more Europeanized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, in fact, in fact, after the song "I Like Not Like,"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's white women.
Mm-hmm.
Then thing came look like this, and you had like that, and all that stuff. But that wasn't an issue for us, because for us, a woman was a woman. That was it. Same thing with men. Men were men. That was it. So it's like a lot of things, influenced by a lot of things that really were not a part of our community. And speaking on the community thing, actually, way back in the day, it was black churches that that helped fund the money to black businesses
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
for black home ownership. Why? Because white banks were not giving us any money.
Correct. And some black ministries, I know where I was in Florida, some of them were starting their own credit unions.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right.
Yeah. So.
I can only speak from my experience, okay? So
Hmm.
don't anybody get they underwear in a bunch here. But
Right.
growing up, things like altering your face, plumping your lips, plumping your behind, those were seen as like, what are you doing? Why are you altering
Hmm.
the beauty that you already have? Like that,
Hmm.
people might have been doing it, but they were not like openly verbal about it. Mainly you saw the European culture doing it, right? And you
Hmm.
might see some articles about it in a celebrity magazine, and they would talk about their transformation or what they got, what what procedures they got done. That wasn't a norm like we see it now, like we see it happening now. Of course, that was 20, 30 years ago. Um,
Right.
and not saying that people didn't want to get those things done, but it was just not, it was not a everyday run of the mill procedure like you see so many people getting done today. It was usually something that the celebrity class, if I could say it that way, the celebrity class would
Hmm.
do. And it was like not something that if you weren't a celebrity, you weren't going around considering doing having these alterations done. Now it is a little bit more widespread, it's a little bit more widely accepted. And I always tell people I never felt like I needed to change something about myself. Obviously, I looked in the mirror and I'm like, okay, my lips look like this, my nose is this, my forehead that people love to tell me I got five heads. Okay, this is the face I'm given. That's how I learned to accept my own face. I learned to accept my facial features. Um, Obviously, in getting into things like a person had a major injury or something like that, and they had to do reconstructive surgery. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm talking about here's my face, here's my features, looking at my face, exploring the face I have, and accepting my own features. Now, if I want to do some enhancements or whatever, I can do that. Anybody can do whatever they want to do. But I often ask myself, did you begin with self acceptance? Like, what's motivating the change? What's motivating the change? And I feel like people bypass self acceptance, then they go to the change, and then sometimes self acceptance happens after the change, and then some people say, I want to go back to, I want to take out the piercings, I want to get rid of the tattoo because I'm in a different place of self acceptance, right? And so sometimes I just ask the question, whatever change you want to do, whatever thing you want to alter with yourself, have you first tried self acceptance? Have you started there? Or are you changing it on the premise of an insecurity that you don't feel good about yourself first? And that's what you're leading your change with. Because I think it does make a difference. What are your thoughts on that?
So, well, how do you feel about you? And I think because don't care about themselves. Let me put it that way. They don't know who they are and what they look like. I can say one person don't look up that actually enhances
Hmm.
what they really look like. I mean, you know it's them, and it just highlights a little bit and just adds just a little to it, versus completely changing the entire face.
Yeah. And
So,
again, I'm not knocking anybody who says, well, I just want a different face, right? There are people who
hmm
say, who go in and they might show the doctor a picture. Because I think at some point, people were just showing celebrity faces to the surgeon and saying, I want to look like this person. Well, here's the thing, you're never going to be them.
right.
And I feel like if you're going to go through that kind of drastic change, hopefully these people are getting some kind of therapy before they do a major surgery like that. I don't know if
hmm
they are or not. Somebody could probably tell me in the chat, once this video airs. But I'm wondering about, is there some therapeutic practice that is going on before people get these kind of major alterations and major surgeries? Because if not, I feel like that's medical malpractice. I really do. I really do. Um,
hmm
I get it. People want to just take your money and not deal with the other side of that. But I do feel like if you're gonna do something major, you need to talk it through with someone. You need to make sure that you're not dealing with some kind of dysmorphia, right? Where you have a unhealthy perception of your body or your features and stuff like that. Um, I hope people are getting counsel, proper counsel, before they make that decision, you know? And there are some people who've gone through the surgeries and they've made major changes and it works for them. But my thing is always going to
hmm
be, are you leading from a place of self acceptance with whatever change you're getting ready to do? If that's not your foundation, good morning. If that's not your foundation, you might find yourself later regretting the decision that you made. Now, when it comes to money, tell me your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, there should always be an emergency, or you can call it emergency. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but some way where you're putting money to the side for some unexpected stuff that may pop up. Air conditioning units don't last forever.
Mhm.
Refrigerators don't last forever.
Mhm.
Washers and dryers don't last forever.
Mhm.
Vehicles don't last forever.
Mhm.
You know, so you should always try and do something like that. I remember my first house and my first wife. My thing was, listen, let's do the bare minimum spending, put everything else in the bank for about 6 months. 6 months. After 6 months, we got like 4 months of everything
Mhm.
stacked up, and we just leave it there, don't touch it.
Mhm.
At that point, we just keep adding. Now we can live a little bit, loose, a little more, but at that point, we cut what we're putting in now, basically in half or whatever, and start doing a little more for ourselves. Well, I thought we were doing that. Problem was is that I didn't have the checkbook; the other person did. See, and next thing I know, we were behind in the mortgage payment.
Mm-mm.
So instead of us saving the money just in case something happened, one of us got sick or something, the money was being spent for lunch and
Oh.
clothes that they were hiding.
Oh wow.
I found out about the clothes from my baby sister. She finally told me after everything, had started hitting the fan.
Mm.
So um and the way I found out that we were behind is that my brother was in the military. He came and stayed with us for a while. Um, and he just happened to go to the mailbox,
Mm.
see, and got the letter from the bank.
Wow.
in in the mortgage. I wasn't overseeing it, which I probably should have, because that's how I was raised. I probably should.
Mhm.
See, I'm not here. I'm gonna take that. That was on me because I knew I was responsible enough to take care of that stuff. So, but I didn't know that she wasn't. So, but yeah. So that's what happened with that. So, yeah. Listen. If it's $10 a week, cut out a trip. Cut out one. Cut out that McDonald's meal. 10 from $10 to $15 for one meal
Listen,
now.
I don't think a lot of my followers are still going to McDonald's. But I but
Yeah,
I would
probably not.
say I would say cut out at least one eating out for the week. Cuz eating out does it is getting
Yeah.
expensive. You're going to spend at a minimum 10 to $15 on an eat out meal. And I will say at the end of the year, if you are in a job too where they offer you bonuses at the end of the year, that's a good time to take your bonus money and put your bonus money in savings. And like she talked about before, you can put some in emergency fund. You could put some in your travel fund. So if you're in a position like that where you know you're getting a
Hmm.
yearly bonus, and that bonus might be the same, right? Or it might be an incremental percentage increase every year. You can start thinking about, what am I going to do with that money? Am I going to put some in savings? Am I going to do emergency fund? Am I going to put some away for travel for the coming years? Summer travel. People love to travel between June and August. You already know. Start planning now. It's October of this year. You know you want to be going on a trip next summer. Start planning now. Start saving now. Um, and I will say this: if you are married, right? Some of us have joint accounts. Some of us have personal accounts for our own personal spending, so that You're not tapping into your joint account money and you're like, "Oh, I thought this was in here. No, I spent that." What do you mean you spent it? I went to go use the same card and my card declined. Like, you know how you solve that?
Mm-hmm.
Joint account for household accounting,
Mm-hmm.
bills, groceries, things that you're going to be doing jointly, and a personal account for your personal spending. Now, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
other people's house might work a little different. Savings, joint savings for things that y'all are saving to do together. Emergency savings for things y'all need as a household. Personal savings for things you want to do for yourself. I'm just trying to help somebody after 25 years of being happily married and not ever having to argue about money. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So do what works for your household, but those are just some things to think about, especially for the coming year. Um, do we need to go ahead and open an account that is just reserved for expenses? Do we need to open an account that's just reserved for personal spending? Do we need to open an account that's just reserved for the savings that we want to do for the group things that we want to do, family outings, cruising, all that stuff that people want to do throughout the
Mm-hmm.
year so that you're not pulling from your main money for expenses? Because believe it or not, one of the major reasons that people divorce is because of how the money in their relationship is being handled, not handled, dispersed, withheld, or denied.
Mm-hmm.
In some courts of law, some things that people are doing in their marriage when it comes to finance can be considered financial abuse. You holding all the purse strings and your spouse can barely get anything to utilize, that's financial abuse. And I know people don't want to hear that, but it is. So, things to consider. Final thoughts.
The way we used to do, the way, it takes a village to raise a child,
Hmm.
that mentality. The village looks after the village, that mentality. Um, you know, uh, uh, being or look expecting everyone in the community what they look like, the body type, or what they have. That was the way the community used to be. Everybody looked out for everybody. You know, in fact, let's go back to what hurricane was that? Uh, the one basically destroyed Miami.
Andrew?
Andrew, yeah, doing Andrew, because Fort Lauderdale got hit pretty good too. Not as bad as Homestead and some of those areas down there. But there were people literally taking their food that they have, doing barbecues, and the community was looking after the
Hmm.
community. See, that actually took people back to the community, where the
Hmm. Yep.
to return to our community.
Hmm.
Oh, we're going to take care of that. That's what the community did. But now it's like, oh, you got to look out for yourself. I got mine, you get yours. So we got to get out of that community, out of that mentality, and go back
Yeah, I remember I remember, and I know we got to go, but I remember block parties where people would come. They would either bring food because people wanted to eat and people wanted to drink. Um, Some
Mm-hmm.
people would bring money and they would give money to whoever was hosting the block party. If you were a
Mm-hmm.
musician or you were a DJ, that was when people would just bring their equipment out and play. They weren't charging people to play a block party. They just weren't. They just weren't. Like you said, if we heard that somebody was gonna be evicted, sometimes people would throw card parties and have a card party.
Yeah.
My mom did a lot of that. Um, they would call it, what would they call it? Rent raising, rent parties, where people would invite people to their house to party, and there was a cover charge to come in their house, and they would take that money and pay their rent for the month. Again, like you said, getting back to and understanding some of the things we were already doing. I feel like people are trying to quote unquote introduce us to things that we were already doing. So I would say, um, let's get back to the community building. Let's get back to um, understanding the things that we were already doing and do them. My favorite words to some of my students is, I am so glad you are a self starter. This is going to be very beneficial for your life. Self starting,
Mm-hmm.
independent thinking, not waiting for somebody to initiate you to do good in the world. If you see something, we say, if you see something, say something. But really, if you see something and you can do something, then do
Mm-hmm.
it. Obviously, ask for people's consent, right? Don't just go around doing stuff without people's consent. But if you have the
Right.
consent and the ability to do it, do the good in the world. You don't have to be like, okay, I'm waiting for somebody to tell me how I can help. No, look around you. There's plenty of opportunities to help people.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I do want to thank you for your time and your attention. Thank you to those of you who have stayed to watch, to listen, to like, to share this video. I believe you can share it while we're live. Facebook usually takes 24 hours to review every single word I say before they allow my videos to post permanently. So you will see this video. It may go away and you might not be able to click back in, but it'll post on the following day. Leslie and Co, thank you for joining us. I hope you will come back and share with us in our broadcast. On Monday, we will be back again at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will end season 16. Again, we will take a break, and then we'll be back the first Monday in November, starting season 17. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, so continue to go out and be what?
Light.
Light. Take care, everyone. Be well, be light, and Pastor Ben, be safe out there on your site.
I'm trying.
All
I
right.
will be.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bless you.